So the books that didn't make it onto my list follow. These are in no particular order, but I did give all of these 5-star read, but they just didn't make my top 20 list. And that first book is Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. This is the third installment of this trilogy, another series that I wrapped up and that I was really happy with. But also sad that the series is over now. But I really enjoyed this 5-star read. Obviously, that's why it's in this video. I read quite a few graphic novels this year. So I read Witchy by Ariel Monte Rise. I probably butchered this, I'm so sorry. I got this in my owl crate. I believe it was in my May owl crate, which I did an unboxing for, I believe, on my channel. So I'll leave that up above or down below if I have a video of me unboxing it. The artwork in here is so amazing. It was easy to read. I literally remember reading this over the summertime, and I had like a dentist appointment to go to, and I literally brought this to the dentist, and I read it almost all in, like, I was like this much, I had this much left, I remember, and that I like read almost all of it in the dentist's office while waiting, and I really loved it. I give this one 5 stars, obviously. I think there's gonna be a sequel because on the spine here it says #1. So if this is a sequel next year, I want it because this was really good. Definitely a creepy novel to read during the Halloween season. Next graphic novel I read was V.E. Schwab's Shades of Magic graphic novel series. I reread volume 1 and 2, so I should have mentioned those in my reread stack, but I forgot to grab them. But this one was my favorite out of all 3, and I'm sad this one is over, so this is yet another series I wrapped up this year. And the artwork in this one is just as amazing as Witchy. I think you're supposed to read this before the Shade of Magic trilogy, because that's what I saw on V.E. Schwab's Instagram page when she posted the release of this. So I might do that next year and just reread the whole universe of this world. So I'm real excited. I will hopefully reread this, one of my favorite book series of all time. So I love how it came out in graphic novel form, and it followed our main character that we know and love from the trilogy. So I really enjoyed it. 5-star read. Then I read Love Creekwood by Becky Albertalli, the shortest book on this list, I think, despite the graphic novels. Look how tiny this is, and I bought this full price. I was kind of mad at myself for buying it at full price, but this is from the Simon vs. the Homo sapiens Gender universe. I love Becky Albertalli. I will always support her. She writes some LGBT characters, and we love that. This was also a mixed medium format, so like it was either in emails or text messages throughout this novel, and we are just back in this universe. And I didn't know this, but there's a couple characters from Nick Stone novel of Dear Martin, I think, if I remember correctly, and also Angie Thomas book. There's a character in here. I forgot who they were. If you guys remember, let me know down below. But this one I read. It's super short. I read this in one day, and I loved it, obviously. That's why I'm mentioning this in my video. The next book is another sequel that I read this year, and that is The School for Good and Evil, A Quest for Glory by Simone Chanier. This is the 4th installment in the School for Good and Evil series, obviously. I read 1 through 3 last year, and I loved it, and I was waiting to get my hands on this, and I finally got my hands on this around the end of last year, but never read it until March, because March is when quarantine started for everyone. And so I wanted a good middle grade fantasy book. And of course, I pick up the biggest book that I have. I love this. It was a 5-star read. I still need to read A Crystal of Time and One True King now that both of those books are out. So I might just binge read the last 2 books. Next is a graphic novel, and that is The Mortal Instrument graphic novel, volume 3. I read this for the first time earlier this year. And then in my Thanksgiving vlog, I think it was, I reread this for my Thanksgiving vlog in anticipation to read Volume 4. Volume 4 also made it on my favorite list, but it's not like one that I would mention just because like I've already read these stories basically because this is just the same story just in graphic novel format. The one thing I do the one thing I don't like about this series is that we have to wait a full year for the next installment to come out. So this is volume 3. I read volume 4 this year, and now I have to wait for volume 5 to come out sometime next year. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. The artwork in here is simple. It's in like black and white, so very simple. It was very easy for me to fly through, and of course I give this one a 5 stars, which is why it's on my list. Next book that I have is one that is very popular, and I believe it was the Reese Witherspoon YA book club pick, and that is You Should See Me in the Crown by Leah Johnson. I read this because it was the Reese Witherspoon, wow, that's a hard name to say fast, book club pick, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. This didn't make my top 20 of 2020 list, but I still overall really enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys can check this book out if you haven't yet. This is another LGBT contemporary novel, and I read a lot of those this year, as you can tell, so this one I definitely will recommend in an LGBT contemporary recommendation video that I have coming soon. But yeah, every time I hear this title of this book, I think of the Billie Eilish song, Does Anyone Else? But yeah, I really enjoyed this. 5 stars, such a quick, easy read, and I read this perfect time because I read this over the summer and absolutely fell in love with it. The next book I buddy read with my friend Heather this year, and this is also the author's debut novel. I got this in my February Owl Crate, and that was All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. I don't think I did an unboxing of this box because I don't remember when I started to do those, but I really enjoyed this, gave it 5 stars, such a great debut novel, and the sequel comes out in February, so I might reread this one in January and then get my hands on the sequel in February because I'm real excited to see how this duology will wrap up. This is the first in a duology, like I just said, and the sequel comes out in February, so hopefully I can get my hands on it. If not, then I'll just get it from the library. But yeah, I'm excited to wrap the series up. This is a gorgeous Owl Crate cover too, like the spine. Oof. I really enjoyed the story. It's a mermaid, and it's a mermaid story, which I haven't read a lot of those yet, but that's what I was really hooked on, so I give this one 5 stars. Then I read another Owl Crate, but this one I got last year, and that is I Hope You Get This Message by Farhad Nazi Rishi, I believe is how you say the author's name. I love this cover. I really enjoyed this. This is yet another LGBT contemporary novel, as you can tell. I read a lot of them this year. This one, as I said, I got it last year in my Owl Crate, and I wasn't really like anticipating it at all. It was one of those boxes where you had 2 books in one box. So it came in that box last year, and I was like, I will read the other book that came in the box, but not this one because I didn't know much about it. But then I read the author letter and the summary, and I was like, okay, this might be actually something I like. And I picked this up back in March, and I really loved it. So 5-star read. I should probably stop saying that because that's the whole video. Next book I read was Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. This is the 3rd and final book in the Once Upon a Con series, and again, another series I wrapped up this year, which is really amazing. This is the one I read during the summertime as well, and it was just perfect timing, and so I give this one 5 stars. It's also the shortest book out of the 2 that they had. Also another book with LGBT characters in here, and we love to support that on this channel. And so definitely a really quick, easy read, and I flew through this. I also, since I pre-ordered this book over the summer, I was able to get a signed book plate from the publishing company, so thank you so much, Quick Books, for sending that my way. And I'm so sad this series is over, but I hope she writes more in the future. The next couple of books that I read but didn't make my top 20 list is The Last Life of Prince Allister by Alexandra Bracken. This is the 2nd and final installment in the Prosper Reading duology, another series I wrapped up this year. Then I read a debut middle grade novel from a person of color, and that is Maya and the Rising Dark by Raina Barron. I didn't know about this book, much about this book going into it. I just know it was middle grade, and I got this book sent to me from one of my friends on Instagram, and I was like, can I have this arc please? Because she wasn't in reading middle grade at the time, so I was like, I love middle grades, I will totally read it. I actually thought this was part of the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, because doesn't it just look like a Rick Riordan cover? But it's not. It's its own separate middle grade novel that needs so much love right now. The sequel comes out in June, and I'm so excited for the sequel. Hopefully I can get my hands on the arc for the sequel sometimes next year. That's one of my goals. But this was such an amazing first book by the author. I know she has Kingdom of Souls out, but I haven't read that one yet, so maybe I'll read that one sometimes next year. But this one will definitely be on my 2021 anticipated read list for this sequel, because I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, read this one. I actually physically read this. One of the rare books that I physically read this year. Then I have Girls, Serpent, and Thorn by Melissa Bachedeau. This one I buddy read with a bunch of my friends. I buddy read this with my friend Heather and Tiffany. I believe someone else was in our group chat, but I can't remember who. I'm bad. This is a new book by this author. She's the author of A Girl Made of Snow and Glass, I believe. And this was another fantastic fairy tale novel. I didn't hear much about this book this year, though, because it just probably got underhyped. But I am really glad I loved this. But again, it did not make my top 20 list of 2020. Next book that didn't make the list was Punching the Air by Ibiza Boy and Yufasa Salame. I probably butchered that last name, I'm sorry. I love Ibiza Boy. I fell in love with her in 2018, and I've just been reading her books ever since. I believe the first book that I read was called American Street by her in 2018, and I just absolutely loved it. And I read Black Enough last year, loved that. I read Pride by her last year and loved that, and I read this one this year and loved it. So I think she's an auto-buy author for me now. This was a very hard-hitting contemporary novel. It's a book written in a verse, so that's what it looks like. So again, this was another quick and easy, not easy, but like quick and fast-paced read is how I should say that. But yeah, I learned a lot through this book, and I'm really happy that I read a diverse read this year. The next book I want to mention is the final book in the stack, and then we can finally get into our list of 2020, our top 20 books. Is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I read this with my friend Heather, and I just remember my reaction every single page. This was my first book by Tiffany D. Jackson, so I'm really excited to go back and read her backlist title, and I was really happy with this. I actually gave this like a 4.5 out of 5 stars, just because there was just something that bugged me about the main character for a little bit. I won't say what, because this is a very hard-hitting subject, but there are trigger warnings for this book, which I'll leave down below as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Probably my only 4-star book on this whole entire video. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Definitely recommend it. And I just love this cover. This yellow background that she's on is just beautiful. And now we are finally getting to the top 20 books of 2020. I'm gonna fix my stack because I'm gonna go backwards, so starting from number 20 down to 1. If you guys could guess what will be in my top 20 books, leave that down below in the comments, because I would really love to see if you guys could guess any of these. Some of these I talked about, and some of these I haven't talked about a lot this year, but I hoped I talked a lot about these books this year. But yeah, I'm just trying to do this, which I should have done this before I put the camera on. So coming in at number 20, we have a sequel, and that is One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. this is the sequel and finale to the One of Us is Lying duology, and I, like I said, just finished the series this year, and man, I love this. I think I read this in like 1 or 2 days. I read this back in January, and I still think about this book. I remember the plot twist in here. There was multiple plot twists in here. Really loved it. Obviously, it's on my favorite list, but it wasn't in my top like 10 books on this list, so this is sadly in the number 20 spot. But if you guys haven't read this one yet and you read One of Us is Lying, definitely check this one out, because I really love the sequel. I think I love this one a bit more than One of Us is Lying, and I also read One of Us is Lying last year, and I read it very fast, so if that doesn't say anything for you, I don't know what will. But this is coming in at number 20. At number 19, we have Finale by Stephanie Garber. I finally completed this series. Yay! I actually got my friend Taylor into reading this. Last time I heard, she finished Carval, and I believe she's reading Legendary. So I'm real excited to see what she thinks of this series. It's one of my new favorite series. I love this one. Again, this is another book that will be in my completed series video, and I'm just happy I completed this because I got this from Owl Crate back in 2018, and I haven't read it till now. So yeah, and then she has a new book coming out, and I'm so excited because it's all about Jax, who's one of the characters in here. So I can't wait for that to come out this fall, or next fall, I mean. But yeah, I can't talk much about this one because this is a finale, but this is where we left off, or this picks up where we left off in Legendary, is what I meant to say. So definitely enjoyed this a lot more than Legendary, so I'm so happy I did. 5 stars, obviously. Coming in at number 20, 19, 18, I can't count backwards. I have 2 books by the same author, so it's technically like more than 20 books on this list by combining these 2, and we have The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, and then Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. Both of these books were my 2020 most anticipated reads. Kingdom of Back is about our main character named Naya, I think. I don't remember how you say it correctly. I read this one. Oh my god, it was really good. I gave it 5 stars, obviously. And then I also wanted to put Sky Hunter on my list because this one I read faster / quicker than Kingdom of Back. Kingdom of Back was a little slow in the beginning, but Sky Hunter was fast paced right off the bat. I really enjoyed these 2 books. 2 very different books. They're both fantasy novels. This is a YA fantasy standalone novel, I believe, and this is the first book in a trilogy, duology. I'm not too sure how long this series will be, but she's currently writing book 2 to the Sky Hunter series, so I'm real excited for book 2 to come out. That's also on my 2021 most anticipated list. Oof, talking very fast, but I'm real excited. I love Marie Lu. I fell in love with her because of book 2. So yeah, both of these are coming in at number 18 on my list, and I suck at summaries, but I gave you my thoughts and feels about these books. So yeah, also I buddy read The Kingdom of Back with my friend Heather, and I buddy read Sky Hunter with my friend Lori. Coming in at 20, 19, 18, 17, I'm gonna do that throughout the video, is the Trials of Apollo, book 4, The Triton Tomb. I finally read this book this year. I'm so happy I finally read this book. I gave this one I actually gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars, another 4-star read on my list. But like the way this book ended, I won't say how it ended, of course, because that will be dumb. But this book is, I thought The Burning Maze would be my favorite. No. This one was my favorite. But I really enjoyed this one. I'm scared to finish the series off in 2020 though, because The Tower of Nero was Rick Riordan's last book for the middle grade series that he has wrote for many years now. So I'm really scared to read The Tower of Nero. Also, my friend Taylor read that without me, and she cried in it, she said. So I'm preparing myself for that. But yeah, I'm super excited to wrap up this series. It's been a long time coming. I reread book 3 earlier this year as well, and that was a 5-star read, but again, I won't be counting rereads. So this is number 17 on the list, and I just want you guys to read this if you haven't read the series yet. Okay? Okay? Good. 17. Coming in at 16, we have Hope and Another Punchline by Julie Buxbaum. I actually have What to Say Next on my list as well, but I wanted to have these two books separate because these two books are very different books, and I had very different emotions throughout both of her books. Julie Buxbaum is one of my new favorite authors. This one I buddy read with my friend Heather, and I loved it. We both finished it. I didn't cry in this one, but I think Heather cried in this. But this is a book that is set after 9/11, so it's very hard-hitting. I will also leave trigger warnings for this book down below. So basically, just look at the description box. But this is another contemporary novel, and I loved it. I devoured it. I listened to this via audiobook as well. The narrator was well done. I forgot who it was, but if I can remember, I'll leave it down below. But yeah, this is number 15, 20, 19, 18, 17. This is number 16 on the list, and I just want you guys to check this book out and look at this pretty cover. Like, is that not pretty? So 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. Number 15 is Aurora Burning by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is another sequel that I read this year and loved. I buddy read this with my friend Heather. I did a lot of buddy reads this year, and I'm really happy with that. Having a buddy to read with makes me want to read the book faster, which is so weird to say that, but it's true, it does. I can't talk much about this one, just know this continues where we left off in Aurora Rising. I read Aurora Rising this year as well, but it wasn't quite a full 5-star read for me, but I did enjoy it enough to buy the sequel when it came out this year. And I am just so happy that I've read this first 2 books in this trilogy this year, and now I gotta wait for book 3, because book 3 comes out sometimes in the summertime, I think. So this is number 16, 20, number 15 on my list. Coming in at number 14, we have Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan, or Dugan. I don't know how to say her last name properly. This is an Owl Crate exclusive cover. Look at how gorgeous this is. The spine and everything. I remember I stood up late reading this one because of how like amazing and action-packedness it is. Look at this reversible dress jacket. Like, and then there's this awesome quote on here. I don't know if you can read that. It says, "King of Moth, King of Blood, King of Horrors." This was definitely a dark, creepy fantasy novel. This is a sequel, so we can blah, 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 blah. So we continue where we left off in Wicked Saints. I almost forgot what the first book was called, but I loved Wicked Saints as well. I read that last year, and I think I gave it like 3 stars or 4 stars, but like this sequel was a lot better. There was an action-packed fight scene in here that was like blew me away. I literally texted my friend Charlie after reading this, because Charlie read this earlier, I think, or they read this before I read it. But I really enjoyed it, and I just remember all my feelings for this, and so that's why I made it onto my list. Coming in at number 13 of 2020 is The Fountain of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. This is an author that I have loved recently, that I read it in the years. My first book by this author was Salt to the Sea, and I borrowed that from my library, and I loved it. So this was narrated by the author, Richard Ferneri, Maddie something, I don't know. I'll leave all these narrators down below. I really love this. As you know, I listened to this via audiobook. This was such like an interesting like format too, because this one of the characters in here loves to take photographs, and like when I listened to it, there was certain parts in here that sounded like a podcast being like perfect page for this example. Like this part right here, like it would be a short chapter, and then this part tell you a brief little like history portion. And whenever that came on in the audiobook, it sounded like it was a podcast, and that just made me love the book even more. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys can check this out if you want a YA historical fiction novel to read in 2021. Coming in at number 12, we have What to Say Next by Julie Buxbaum. I already talked about this book, so I'm just going to move on. Before I move on, I just want to say, oh my god, the characters in here, they were so dumb. One of the principal in this book made me so mad. I buddy read this one with my friend Heather too, so I just remember texting Heather being like, why did this person do that? And why did this person do this? The way that the principal handled this situation matter, because one of them was getting, what's the word? I don't know what that word is, but like, blackmail. One of the characters was getting blackmail, and the principal didn't do much about it, and that just made me mad. One of the main characters is LGBT as well, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it was just a very hard-hitting novel, and definitely another contemporary novel that made me cry. 12, 20. Coming in at number 11, almost in the top 10, is King of Fools by Amanda Foody. This is the sequel slash follow-up novel to Ace of Shades, aka the Shadow Game trilogy. I read Ace of Shades this year, but that wasn't even a 5-star read for me. It was more of a 4-star read. But this one, oh, I cried in this one. I won't say why, because it's definitely a huge spoiler. But there was a character death in here that I loved the character from the very beginning. So I was shocked that the author killed the character off. But yeah, I really love this, and I need to read Queen of Volts, and I'm scared to wrap up the series. This is yet another series that I wanted to wrap up. At number 10, we have E.K. Johnson's Star Wars novel, Queen's Pearl. This is the second book in the, I don't know what this person's name is. Padme series. I almost forgot. Such a fake fan in the Padme series. The first book is called Queen's Shadow, and that came out last year, and I loved it. I read it. It's on my favorite list. This one is also on my favorite list. It's so short. I bought this as a birthday gift to myself, and I just really enjoyed it, and hopefully she'll have another book in this universe, because I love E.K. Johnson's Star Wars novel, and hopefully I can read more from E.K. Johnson in the future. But yeah, the only books I read by her so far was the Star Wars Ahsoka novel, the first book to this series, and now this one. So I only read 3 books by her, but I loved all 3 of them. So hopefully I can continue reading her Star Wars novel. Coming in at number 9, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is an adult romance novel that I was not expecting to love this year. As you guys know, I've been getting into this genre more and more this year, and I read it quite a few, and this is the only one that made it onto my list. I was laughing out loud through this novel. It's very funny. This novel is about 2 main characters, August and January. I love that. And they live next door to each other on this beach house, obviously, and they are both authors themselves, and they are in a writing block. And so January goes next door to August, and August makes a bet, and they make a bet of who can write their genres better. So they switch genre. I believe August was like a mystery thriller novelist, and January was a contemporary novel, so basically what this is. And I really enjoyed it. I was not expecting to love this one as much as I did, so I was real happy that I got this from Book of the Month. And this was Emily Henry's first adult romance novel, so really well done. I cannot wait for her new one called People We Meet on Vacation, I think is what it's called. Or The People We Meet on Vacation, something like that. That comes out sometimes next year, so I'm really excited to looking forward to that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I hope you guys loved this one as much as I did. 20, 19, 18. Coming in at number 8 is Heartstopper Volume 3. You guys knew this was coming. I talked it nonstop about this graphic novel series. I read this book in one day. I loved it. Like, literally, it almost made it into my top 5 is how much I loved it. This is an LGBT romance. If you don't know what Heartstopper is, where have you been for the past couple of years? There's going to be 5 volumes for this series, and I was so happy. I thought there was just going to be 4, but then the author announced that there was going to be a 5th one coming, and I was like very happy with that. And yeah, hopefully you guys can read this series because I love it. I can't wait for volume 4. This one was set in Paris as well, and we love Paris. One of my places that I want to go to someday. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. This is another graphic novel, and the writing, or not the writing, but the artist did it in black and white, and I loved that. It was very fast-paced to read, and like I said, I read this in one sitting. So this was number 8, 2019. Yeah, this was number 8 on the list. Number 7 is a sequel, and a big sequel that is Heart of Flames by Nikki Peretta. This is the follow-up novel to the Crown of Feathers. I believe I read Crown of Feathers last year, and I wasn't a big fan of it just because it was a debut novel. That shouldn't be an excuse, but there's a few things that the author talked about in the first book that I wasn't a big fan of, but something about sequels just makes it happen for me. I fell in love with Nikki's writing. I love how fast-paced it was. Even though it's huge, it was still fast-paced, and I got this exclusive edition from Owl Crate, so thank you so much, Owl Crate. I've been loving, as you can tell, I've been loving all the books that Owl Crate has put in their boxes lately. So I'm so happy I got this. I am really excited for Wings of Shadows, which is the 3rd installment of this trilogy, and hopefully I'll wrap this series up next year. I believe Wings of Shadows is out late next year as well, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Won't be talking much about this one, just know this leaves off right, or this picks up right where we leave off in the first book. So really excited. Also, she added a new favorite character to this cast of characters, and I hope he has a point of view in the 3rd book. That was 8, 7. Coming in at number 6 is 2 books by the same author because I read them both this year. I buddy read both of these with my friend Libby. That is the Serpent and Dove trilogy by Shelby Mahern. I buddy read these with my friend Libby, and I loved it. I actually just read Blood and Honey in November, so like that's how much I loved it. I read Serpent and Dove back in April, May, and I like was blown away by it. This is a witchy novel, and it deals with werewolves and monsters and magic and blood and snakes and doves. I'm just reading the title, and honey. I really can't wait for the 3rd book. The 3rd book is coming out next year. I think it's called Gods and Monsters. So I'm real excited and real happy that I read these. These are very popular books, so I'm just going to move on to 8, 7, 6, to book number 5 on my list. We're getting in the top 5 now. And number 5 is, drumroll, Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This won the Goodreads Choice Awards. I'm so happy it won. This is the 3rd novel from Elizabeth Acevedo that I read. I read The Poet X, I read With the Fire on High, and now this one. This one was written in verse, so again, it's written in verse, so like, it's that. I read this one in one sitting as well. Such a hard-hitting novel. Clap When You Land is about a main character, Camino, and she lives for the summers when her father visits her in the Dominican Republic. But this year, on the day when his plane is supposed to land, Camino arrives at the airport to see the crowd of crying people, and her father's plane crashes, and so it's just a hard-hitting novel. And also, underneath the chest jacket, gorgeous. This is one of the few books that I will let my friend Taylor take home this winter break and read it. So if you guys haven't read this yet, definitely read it. Diverse your read, and I'm so happy I read this one this year. Coming in at number 4, I have the Tristan Strong novels by Kima Mabala. Again, I just read the sequel this last month in November, so if that doesn't tell you anything, I don't know what will. I listened to both of these books via audiobook and loved it. I think that's the perfect way to go for middle grades, honestly. So as you can tell, there's not a lot of middle grades on my list, I don't think. I think the only one was Rick Riordan. So this is from the Rick Riordan imprint company that he has, and man, I'm so happy he did this. This one came out last year, I think, and I just never got around to reading it. So the first book, Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky, and the second one is Tristan Strong Destroys the World. I love this. I literally, as soon as I finished reading the first book, I recommended it to my friend Lori, and I believe she read it this year. So yeah, I am so happy I binge read this series. Basically, I read this one back in July, and then I read this one in November, and loved them both. They were both 5-star reads, so I wanted to mention both of them on this list. I literally read this one in one day. I read this one in 3 days just because of how big this one is. This was almost 500 and something pages, and this one was only like 300 pages, so I read this one faster than this one, but like, I really love this, and it's by a person of color, and we don't really see that a lot in middle grade, so I'm real happy that happens. Real excited for the third book. I don't know when it comes out, but I will definitely be buying it, and I really fell in love with a new author this year. Coming in at number 3, we have a sequel, and that is Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the sequel to Children in Blood and Bone, which came out back in 2018, but I read it last year and loved it. I read it over the summertime, and I just read it at the perfect time. And then the sequel came out last December, actually. It's funny that I'm mentioning this in December. And so, yeah, I am real happy I read this. This is a shorter installment than I thought it would be. I'm so excited for book 3. I don't know when that's coming out, but this is another series I will definitely be wrapping up. Can't talk much about this one because this is a sequel, but it's in my top 3. That's how much you guys know I love this book. But yeah, super short. I brought this book onto one of my family trips. I think we were heading to Bryan Head when I read this back in January, and I literally read this almost the whole trip to Bryan Head. So that's how much I loved it. I also read this during the snow, and it was just very fun for me to read in the snow, even though I hate the cold. I think I took a couple of Bookstagram photos with this as well. But anyways, so off topic. I really enjoyed this. This is a continuation of the first book, and hopefully book 3 comes out next year, because I'm really dying and seeing how this ends, because this left on the cliffhanger. Coming in at number 2, we have the biggest book I read this year, and that is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I finally did it, you guys. I completed the Throne and Glass series. It took me like, 500 years? I did my waiting, whatever that meme is. I really enjoyed this. I love this one. Obviously, it's in my number 2 slot. I cried in this. This is the biggest book that I read this year, and I cried in it. I cried from it from halfway point once I reached part 2, from part 2 to the end, and it was such an amazing series, amazing wrap up to the series. I kind of want more books in this world, but I know Sarah J. Maas has her other series that she's working on at the moment. I still need to read Crescent City, so that's one of my goals for 2021. But yeah, I am so happy with this. I love the way it wrapped up. I'm sad to see my favorite characters to go, but I had so many feelings with this. And I'm actually making my friend Taylor read this series. This is another series I want my friend Taylor to read next. So yeah, second book on my favorite list. And down to the number 1 slot, we have a book that I did not thought I would love, because I don't really love mystery thrillers all that much, but I fell in love with them this year. So number 1 slot is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is Riley Sager's newest novel that he has out, and as you can tell, it's very, very creepy, and oh my god, I love this one. I also read this on a family trip. We were out camping, and like, I just read this book nonstop. I don't know how to describe my feelings for this, because like, I was shocked. I was like blown away by this as well. The one thing I didn't really love a lot was there would be a second like story / timeline in here. So like, her dad, the main character dad, is an author, and his book didn't really got famous till either the family died or the house got popular. This is definitely a haunted house story too, so it was very creepy. It's also very popular on BookTube, so I won't be talking much about this one because this video is already long enough as it is. But yeah, I devoured this. I told my mom, I was like, I know you don't like mystery thrillers at all, but this is just so good. Trigger warnings for snakes. I actually have trigger warnings down for this. Death of a family member, blood, snake, and it was my favorite read of 2020, obviously. Definitely watch out if you're afraid of snakes. I got chills reading this book. I actually finished this book coming home from my camping trip, so that was a very fun memory to have. And I just remember every time we had a like sitting around the campfire type of night, I would bring this book out, just because it was like the perfect atmospheric type of read to read at the campfire. And it was also very dark in Utah, so I was just like reading this by the fire, and I was just like, what is even happening? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. Obviously it's in my number 1 spot, so that's it, you guys. There you have it. Every single book on my favorite list. Sorry this is such like a long video for you guys today, but I really am happy with my reading year. I read 211 books. Like, what the heck? I will be having a December wrap-up coming soon, and a December book haul, and another unboxing coming soon for you guys. Just subscribe to my channel, please. Give me a big thumbs up, as it would help me a lot if you like this video. Let me know which of these books you read. Are any of these on your favorite list? I'm real excited. Also, let me know if you guessed what my favorite books were in my top 20. I would love to know that in the comments down below. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys later down in the comments. Bye.